Hoeveel is op 5 mensen? 4 mensen, 5 mensen. Oké. Is aan. Oké.
Dat is nou op een actie vanaf.
Dat is allemaal hier.
Diamond, en ik weet niet alles. Daarin zit het zelf At least for a short while. At least for a short while. Well, Wierda is een ijskast.
Okay, guys, have we all got a hot dog?
But you run.
You're right there?
What's that?
Okay, guys, are you all ready? I want to start quickly if I can, or at least explain some rules and grab a beer and grab a hot dog.
Oops, something's fallen down on my head.
Okay, Philip, first of all, I'm going to do this in English because it's the only bisexual language I understand. Thanks for having this, inviting us. It's always cool to get a place where we can talk about what we enjoy and our passions and stuff like that. So we are streaming this live, so don't swear as much as I do. If you guys have questions at any time throughout the presentation, at any time, you don't have to wait till it says questions or anything. Just do me a favor, put your hand up. Quinn has a small microphone. We'll just give you the microphone. Just ask your question in the microphone. It's just so the guys on the live stream can actually hear the question, kind of like come through properly. Otherwise, it's this faint voice in the back, and I have to repeat the question every single time. Okay. The other thing is there will be questions coming through on the live stream as well. So as the same will happen when Quinn sees a question coming up on the chat, all he does is puts his hand up and he'll then read the question and I'll try and answer the question the best of my ability. Okay, so we're going to talk tonight a bit about technical diving, and it's my slideshow, I put it together, and as you see I call it an introduction to the dark side, because we all think technical diving is this scary wah thing. I know Lindy was stressed because you wanted to do the course and she didn't want to let you do the course because it's too dangerous, blah blah blah. And her and I and you had a conversation the one day, and 2 days later Philip signed up for the course. So quickly, just to know who I'm talking with here, who here are all professionals, dive masters or instructors? Okay, put down your hands. Who's not? It's a small shorter list. Okay, who's not advanced yet, advanced diver? Okay, you guys are all open water divers, in other words, or are you advanced already? Open water divers. Okay, great. So we're going to kind of like figure out where who am I talking to. For the instructors and dive masters, if you ask me a question you should know the answer to, I'm going to give you the answer in the nicest possible way. The other guys, you're completely forgiven. You can ask any question you want to. Okay, so don't feel you're sitting here talking to these guys or with these guys, you can't ask a question. There are such things as stupid questions. Don't believe that story where they say there's no stupid questions. There are, but you can ask them. It doesn't matter. Alrighty, so a bit about myself quickly. I got into technical diving in 1998. when I read, I've got some of these books here, you guys can have a look at those. First diving book I wanted to read, other than the manual I never got from my open water course, was I went to the bookstore to look for books on diving. Found nothing. There wasn't a scuba diving section in the bookstore, there wasn't diving, there was nothing. I found a book called The Darkness Beckons by a guy called Martin Farr. I bought the book, went home, and 4 o'clock in the morning I was finished with it. And I read every single story about how cave diving started, what happened, what these guys did back in the day. Right at the end of the presentation we'll go some of the early history of cave diving, where the guys were diving literally with a candle wrapped in wax, holding his breath, diving through until the next sump, getting there, put a flint, light up the match to see where this tunnel is going to. So it's really cool stuff. Okay, so if we lag a bit, Quinn is supposed to be pushing the button and switch that around, but Quinn is not my fastest instructor. So I'm just, yeah, we're just saying. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about technical diving, basically what it is. It's not going to be a long presentation. We're looking at 45 minutes to an hour. We'll maybe take a break halfway, because we have to change our batteries and stuff on the camera in any case. So we'll take a short break. You guys grab a beer, maybe another hot dog. Okay, it's really chill, please. We look at Trimix. You've all heard of Trimix, haven't you? You all know what nitrox is, isn't it? Happy? So Trimix is a third gas, but we're going to talk about that and why we use it. We're going to talk about rebreathers, which is my passion, the stuff I love. I've got some machines here. When we're done, I'll talk you through the machines. We can go talk about the machines. You can ask as many questions as you want. Okay, when we're finished here, I'll have my first beer, and then I'm like an open book, a wonderful person. We're going to discuss overhead environments, and then we're just going to tell some stories. Okay, we all have a story. If you've got 200 dives, you've got 200 stories. You've got 5 dives, you've got 5 stories. Okay, I've got more than 200 stories. And then we're going to look at equipment, techniques, training, narcosis limits and stuff like that. And just lastly, some history, records, incidents. What's the deepest dive? Because that's always the question we get. What's the deepest dive? Okay, and we'll talk about Guinness Book of World Records, for instance, why they don't recognize deep dives anymore, or air deep dives anymore, stuff like that. Okay, so first of all, let's look at what is technical diving. You guys are all familiar with your normal standard dive tables. What's your maximum depth you can dive to? 40 meters, am I correct? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Count on one hand. Surface, 1 bar, 2 bar, 3 bar, 4 bar. Happy, that's how deep you can dive. 5 bars, sorry. It's the deepest you can dive, okay? Who can tell me off the top of your head, instructors only, at 40 meters, what's your bottom time? How long can you stay there? Okay. Who of you sitting here has dived your computer into decompression? Be honest. See, the cameras can't see all the hands I'm just showing. That's stupid. Okay, it's your first stupid thing you've done in your life. I've done it as well, early days, trust me. We all have 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes into deco. Okay, thank God it's not more than that. Okay, decompression is a planned event. It's not an accidental event. You have to plan decompression. So if you're going to do 3 minutes of decompression, you have to make sure you have enough gas and the guy that's going to be there with you has enough gas to last that 3 minutes before you get back onto the boat. That's why I call it a planned event. It's not just it happens. So technical diving effectively is just all dives beyond the recreational limits, which is deeper than 40 meters, okay, and beyond the dive tables. So you can do a technical dive at 12 meters. Time-wise, if you're out the water for longer than, I don't know what, 200 and something minutes, you're still doing a decompression dive because you're going to decompression. Or when you move into an overhead environment. Example of an overhead environment, the simple one, Larato, which is a simple overhead environment. That's an overhead environment. That's a swim-through. There's a difference between a swim-through. The swim-through is like that wide. You can look up and go this way or that way. All that. Okay, but what is an overhead environment? What do we consider overhead? Tommy, you know?
Justin's cave, if you want to talk South Africa.
A cave. You go into a cave, it's an overhead environment. Any environment where you don't have direct access to the surface. You are certified as an open water diver. No, I'm advanced. You are still an open water diver. That's why your instructor is called an open water scuba instructor, which means an open water scuba diver, instructor, doesn't just teach open waters. He also teaches advanced rescue, dive master, all of these courses. Okay. But open water, the definition of open water is direct access to the surface. So if you're at 40 meters and you've dived there for 9 minutes and you have a problem out of air or something, you can go to the surface directly. You can. Oh, I must do a safety stop. No. A safety stop is not a compulsory stop. It's not a decompression stop. It's a safety stop. When the shark's bitten your leg off and you have no air left, it's not safe to do a safety stop. It's safer on the boat. Does it make sense? Whereas technical diving is you don't have direct access, which is caves is one. Another one, give me? Wrecks, of course. You can't go up to the surface. Another one? Ice. And? There's only 4. Okay, decompression is a virtual ceiling. You can't go through it. You can't go through the ice, you can't go through the wreck, and you can't go through the rock. You can't go through the ceiling either, because you'll die. Or, no, you'll die. Let's just leave it there. Because the all seriously hurt never works. You basically die all the time. You can get seriously hurt as well, but you can die. Are we happy with that? So why do we do it? So I just told you can die. You can die in recreational diving as well. You can die on the way home tonight as well. We can die anywhere. Okay, so we do it because we go to different extraordinary places. We explore. We go to places where few people have been. I'd love to go to the moon, but they don't make suits my size anymore. Okay, and I'm not going to do 25 years of astronaut training. But I can go to Canyon in Dahab at 84 meters and go to Neptune's chair and swim into the cave where 20 people have been or 10 people have been. I can do that. Okay. I can go to the bottom of our local hole here, of Miracle Waters, and I can go to 32 meters. But there's nothing to see there. I could take my rebreather, go there, and spend 40, 50, 60 minutes there in my dry suit, not get cold. Still see nothing, but that doesn't matter. Okay, so I can do stuff that a normal recreational diver cannot do. The cool thing about technical diving, and this is for the boys, is the toys. Okay, that's the cool thing. And the math and the calculations. Okay, that immediately puts half of you guys out of the equation with the math and calculations. But it's really, really, really cool stuff. Okay, I love it when I'm teaching instructor training, for instance. I'm busy with my instructors and I ask these questions. Yeah, but this and this. And I say, ask a nitrox question. And they go, let me just work it out. And I go, but that's the answer. But how do you know this so easily? Because I've got a little triangle in the back of my head. And it's a simple calculation. It really is a simple calculation. Trimix, all of these things are really simple calculations. But you have to understand the physics, the physiology, your body's physiology, and the physics involved behind that. And that's what makes technical diving, or the first step in technical diving, which is your Tec 40 course. We'll look at the courses in about a minute or so. We'll discuss the layout of courses. That makes that one of the best courses you can ever do. Because the Tec 40 course takes that step away from recreational diving. Where for the first time, it used to be called the Advanced Nitrox course. Nitrox is, use this gas, you'll dive longer. Great. Then you get to advanced nitrox. Oh, you can die, you can die, you can die, you will die, you most probably will die. You go, oh shit, okay. Perfect. Okay, and now you try and stay away from death. Then you do a rebreather course and you open the manual. In the first 200 pages you read the word death 214 times, I think. Basically starts off, the manual for the inspiration starts off as use this equipment, you will die. Okay, which is cool. You try not to die all the time, which is brilliant. It's lovely stuff. It's boy stuff, isn't it? Having said that, the girls that dive these machines go and see fishes for hours, and the quiet and the peace. We'll talk about rebreathers now. And of course, like I said, caves, wrecks, ice, longer dives. You guys look at this photo here, just from a photography point of view. How did that guy take this photo? That cave is pitch black inside, pitch black inside. These guys take these photos. Let's say this room is a cave, and they put slave strobes in the corners, set it up, and light moves at the speed of light. So when that strobe flashes, doop, it sets off these slave strobes. So the guy puts up his camera in total darkness. You can see nothing, maybe with a pilot light or something. And then clicks the button, and the camera goes, and that whole cave lights up for a microsecond. And that photo comes out. And then people go, oh, I want to go there and see what that looks like. You never see that. Trust me. If we finish here, I'll show you some of the cave diving videos I've got where the guys are doing actual cave dives with actual video. It's a lot different to that beautiful blue photo over there. Technical equipment, we have what we call redundancy, which means if you lose something on a dive, if you run out of air, now, what do you do, Larato?
Sorry?
If you run out of air now on a dive,
How deep I am?
say you're at 30 meters, what's your options? You have more than one option, I know, but what's your options? Because I like the way you think.
Yeah, on
He thinks like an instructor. He doesn't just go, oh, it's my body. No, you're in the pool, stand up.
So if I'm on 30 meters and I run out of air, which should never ever happen,
I've seen you dive.
yeah, I will emergency weight drop and flare. Hopefully I see the sun again.
What did you do, Philip?
Well, it depends on the circumstances.
Yeah, I'll give me an example of circumstance.
If there's money with air, you can do air share.
Go to the guy closest to you and grab his octo and breathe from it. Okay. Here's my next question. How many of you, be honest, have dived your tanks below 30 bar? I don't want to look.
I've done it.
Whose 30 bar is that you're diving your tank to? The 50 bar limit. Whose air is that 50 bar?
Yours and your buddies.
It's yours and your buddies. So if you dive below 50 bar at a certain depth, make the calculations. You and your buddy will run out of air if there's a situation, because he's going to come to you for air. Am I correct? Okay. By the way, at 30 meters, I'll just do a normal Caesar. Done it before. And not planned. Sheer stupidity. But I did it. Normal Caesar. I got to the safety stop and went to my dive master and said, hey, I'm out of here, give me air. No panic, nothing. The guy gave me air. We got in the boat. He says, yes, BigB. You're such a good instructor. You're always testing us. I was like, yeah, don't pick up my tank because all the hoses look like that. It's embarrassing. You use top of the range equipment. So sorry, with redundancy, when we have two tanks. No, it's more air. Not really. When I finish a tech dive, let's say I start on these two tanks with 200 bar in the tanks. What do you think I finish on? Louis? He's a technical diver, it doesn't count. You finish with 1/3 of the air that you started with. So you normally come out the water with 80, 90, 100 bar in your tank, in your twin tanks. You don't dive with twins because we want more air. Yes, that's part of the reason, yes. But we dive with twins for a redundancy principle. And in caves and in tech, we have what we call a thirds rule. If you go into a cave, you use 1/3 of your air in, use 1/3 of your air out. So you should finish your dive with 1/3 of your air. That third is for the other guy. And that's a rule. If you read that Darkness Beckons book, there's a whole article on a guy called Sheikh Exley. Exley was the guru of cave diving, gave us our first 6 rules of cave diving. Continuous line to the surface, 2 lights, blah, blah, blah. And he wrote the third rule after an incident in a tunnel called the Atlantida Tunnel, where him and a buddy were diving into the tunnel, and at the far end of the tunnel, as they turned around, the guy turned around and knocked the tank valve off his tank and lost all his air. Catastrophic air failure right there. And you read how they came back out, and they came back out alive. It's like, it reads like a horror story or like a adventure. You know, they almost just ran out of air every time before they got to the next tanks that they laid on the way out, their deco tanks on the way out. Actually came back and made a rule that said 3rd in, 3rd out, 3rd reserve. If you follow that rule, you lose all your air, or one of you lose all your air at the furthest point, you can come back out. Happy? That's redundancy. You carry 2 buoys. If I'm in open water and I shoot my 1 buoy, my orange buoy means everything's cool, everything's fine. I shoot this. This one fails, falls away or something. I use my, I'm not going to talk about that. I'll use my backup reel, which is what you seem to use for open water dives these days. Waar's my klein backup reel? Oh, it's on the twin set. Okay, it's on the twin set now. It's here on my twin set. I know it's right here. I'll clip that off. I'll use my double ender, which is on here. Clip off my double ender. Take my second buoy, which is on my left-hand side. Put that up and shoot my second buoy up, which is a yellow buoy, which tells the boat or the skipper or the guy on the surface, I've got a problem. If I have a problem, somebody has a problem underwater with me, I shoot up my yellow buoy. That tells the skipper there's a problem. Of course, this gets discussed before the time. It's not a hard and fast rule. It's what I do, how I teach my guys, and how I brief my skippers. Does that make sense? Okay. You go in with a cave reel, you have more than 1 cave reel. These reels can't jam. The line can't catch there. Early cave reels, you could get your line or you wind your line in here. You've all played with the reels before, and you have this whole block under cave. This thing can't jam. But it's a 7,000 rand reel. They're expensive. Everything's expensive. But it's the best and the highest quality stuff. Okay, which brings you to top of the range. When you come onto the course and you want to do a course, and you come here with your, I'm not going to mention brand names because it doesn't really matter, but you come here and you insist that this regulator is great because the guy at the shop next to the bar in the church sold it to you, find another instructor. Tech is very simple. It's a very narrow road. You dive with this gear and this stuff, quality stuff, and that's it. You don't come with experimental stuff. You don't come with stuff that you've heard somebody told you. It's great. You just don't do that. But I've had this wreck my whole life. Nothing ever went wrong with it. I don't care. You don't have to buy new stuff. You can rent my stuff, which is old, but it's the right stuff. Balance regulators, din fittings, stuff like that. Your training, hoeveel minuten nog? 2. Okay, we're going to take a short break in about a minute, okay, simply because I've got to just switch over the cameras, and we'll carry on then, okay. Training is more intense. Simple. It's only 4 days for Tech 40, for instance, 8 days for a rebreather course, 12, 13 days for a Trimix course. Okay, depending where you're going, deeper you're going, knowledge you gain, and stuff like that. The course is more intense. Your buoyancy has to be a lot better than what it is now. I know it's great. I'm not going to argue with you. Put you in the pool in the dry suit, you have to boom, like that in the water. Okay, what we can do quickly is grab a beer, just take a quick break. Quinn's just going to quickly switch batteries on the camera, and we come back live in a minute. Okay. Ek wil eintlik graag 'n bier hê, maar ek's te bang om te drink op die kameras.
Heb je een beker gooi?
Ja, my koffiebeker.
Put it in the Coke bottle.
Ja,
Anybody wants a beer or Savannah while I'm here?
is jy reg? Sound on? Okay, cool. Okay, so like I said, the training is more intense. It's not more difficult. Okay, it's not that the training is difficult. It's not. It's all the stuff you've done. We will do an out-of-air drill. You've done that before, haven't you? We're going to practice buoyancy. You've done that before, haven't you? There'll be no mask swims. You've done that before, haven't you? So it's all stuff that you've done before. We're going to add a little bit more skills, like we'll take a bailout tank. Okay? So you carry a sling. You carry an extra cylinder. But it weighs nothing in the water. And I'm going to teach you to unclip it and clip it back on. Same way you would learn how to undo your weight belt and put your weight belt back on, or take your kit off and put your kit back on when you load onto a boat or kit up in the water. There's no difference, you understand? So, excuse me, the skills we're doing are not new skills. Yes, the out-of-air drill is a little bit more intense because all of a sudden there's more bits and bobs that has to be worked. Hose is a bit longer. But why? Okay, you're in a cave. Your body's out of air. You came in through a small restriction. You can't swim next to each other. How are you going to get back out if you're sharing air, or if you're on an octave which the hose is that long? Okay, buddy. You can decide, do you put him in front of you or do you put him behind you? If I'm the buddy, I'd like to be ahead. And I'll be pulling you along like this. But that's why the hose is 2 meters long. Okay. It's not to look cool. It's nothing to do with that. It's just easier to do drills, have the diver far away from you so that he's independent, you are independent. Technical diving does not rely on a buddy system. We don't use a buddy system. We follow the principle of redundancy. 2 is 1 and 1 is none. If you have 2 of something, you have 1. If you have 1 of something, you have none. Because if 1 goes away, that's it. If you have 1 rig and you lose your rig, you're dead. 1 tank, you lose your tank, you're dead. 1 tank valve blows off, you shut it down, you're dead. In a cave, you lose your torch, you're dead. So we have 2 torches. Well, 1 primary torch, and then we have 2 backup torches. So I don't back up my primary, I back up my backup. So I lose my primary, I've got still 2 torches left. You see the principle of what I'm talking about here. If I lose my primary computer, okay, I'll go to the other one. And if that one fails, I've got 2 more. I don't carry all of them. There's a cutoff point to how many things you carry. If we sit after the talk, I'll put my twin set on the table. You can see where my knives are, for instance. How many have I got, by the way? You should know that, 2. This is a biltong evening, it's a diving evening. So I, for instance, carry my knives, my 1 knife on my hose here and my other knife in my belt here. And even my recreational kit, I carry the same knife in the same place. I've got 5 knives. They look exactly the same, and they're on all 5 different equipments of mine. On my 2 rebreathers, on my twin set, on my 4 knives, and on my recreational kit. They're all in the same place. So I know my knife sits here. Okay, forming habits. Okay, we're happy with that? You service your regulator, you service your regulator. Buy a reputable guy. Unless you know how to service your regulator, you don't service it yourself. Putting silicone grease all over the equipment isn't servicing. A lady in my shop this morning had bought a big tube of silicone grease. What's that for? It's for a regulator. I said, you do what? When we service it. I said, how you service it? No, they take the front and they put silicone grease on it. And I'm going, oh God. Silicone grease, sand. You have grinding paste all everywhere. People slobber silicone grease on their O-rings, on their cameras. tube of silicone grease, I service equipment lasts me a year. It lasts some people 3 days. I mean, I think they do it in their hair as well, I'm not sure. If you service your own gear, you have to have the knowledge. Doing one service course with a supplier doesn't make you a service, you can't service. You've seen how the rig takes apart and you've seen how it puts together. That's why I've got two types of regulator, 2 brands of regulator, and in those brands just 2 makes, just 2 specific regulators. So I've got 1 service kit, 2 service kits, 1 for each of the brands. I don't need 4 service kits, although I've got 10 regulators, because only one's going to break at a time. Makes sense? And I can service them with my eyes closed. I don't, but I can. Okay, you make sure, because if I'm in the bush, I can't send it to the manufacturer and say, oh, please service my gear quickly. I've got to fix my gear there. Safely. Make sense? The stuff's expensive, period. Huh? What, that was a little sign you made. Minimalistic. So you're going to read that book on cave diving, or if you, well, not that one specifically, but if you read the early cave diving manuals, not even the early cave diving manuals, the early American diving manuals, there's a guy, he's still alive, a guy called Bill Hogarth. And when you're doing tech, you might read about the Hogarthian system, or you might read about DIR, do it right. Some people have taken it into a religious context completely and gone mad, which is also stupid. But DIR means do it right. There's no 2 ways. There's no second way. There's no easy way. Okay. Minimalistic, keep your stuff simple. Keep your stuff as simple as you possibly can. Here's a BC. But it doesn't look like my Hydros Pro. Or my wave. I've got many more. How many D-rings you got? I've got 3. How many you got? I've got 7. Because it's better than 3. No, it's not. Minimalistic. Okay? Oh, this back plate is steel. It must really hurt your back. No, it doesn't. Michelle, you've got a back plate and harness, haven't you?
Yeah.
And?
Yeah, because usually they put it.
Absolutely nothing to it. Okay. 1 D-ring, 1 D-ring. But isn't 2 better? I'm asking a question. Wouldn't it be better to have another one? No, that doesn't depend.
What are you going to do with it?
Exactly.
2 is 1, 1 is none.
What do you do with the extra? Well, you know, that's not going to break. Why would you have 2 wetsuits then? Because you're not going to break your wetsuit while you're diving. Okay, you only have 1 purpose for that D-ring. Well, 3 purposes. Clips off your cave torch, your backup torch hangs here. You clip off your long hose with a small clip that's on there. When it's not in use, you clip that on there, and you carry your backup slider, double ender on there. That's it, 3 things. Nothing else. There's something called Hick's Law. You don't know what Hick's Law is? Let me explain to you what Hick's Law is. Hick's Law says, the more choices you have when you have to make a decision, the longer you take to make that decision. Practical example. Put a woman in a shoe store. You understand? Go and buy boots. You go in there, there's a pair of boots, it's black, it's your size. What are you going to walk out with? Black boots. Okay. If you go in there and there's a pair of black boots, brown boots, suede, I don't know what other colors you get, leather, whatever the story is, the one's kudu skin, the one's rhino horn, you're going to take 4 times as long to make a decision, am I correct? It's human nature. So what we do, we minimalize all the equipment and stuff, so that when you make a decision, you don't have to think which D-ring, the top one or the bottom one, which is best. Clip it on to the D-ring. Click. 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 That's it. 1, 2, 3. Oh, there's one at the bum as well. That one just carries my backup line. Back up to this. Make sense? You understand what we mean by simplistic, minimalistic, Hogarthian, DIR, KISS principle. I love KISS principle. When you're very sensitive to other people's feelings, you'll call it, keep it simple and what, straightforward or simple. No, there's a comma in there. Keep it simple, comma, stupid. It's talking to you. Okay, you are stupid. You have to have that principle in your head. Keep it simple, stupid. Okay, that's what it meant originally, but then we had to change it because it's offending people. Offended people die just as quickly as people that are going to get offended, trust me. Okay, Quinny. Trimix. What's Trimix? What's the benefits? Negatives of Trimix. I just said cost availability. That is the negative of Trimix. But let's carry on. Okay, so, where's the radar? Or did you go one fast? Thank you. So first of all, let's understand how our normal air works. You should know this. Air, 20.9% oxygen, and the rest is nitrogen. And we metabolize the oxygen. It goes in our bodies, things happen to it. Some of it comes back out, and some of the oxygen doesn't come back out. That's converted into CO2, carbon dioxide, CO2, two O atoms, oxygen atoms. Okay. The nitrogen goes in, goes out. 79% goes in, 79% goes out. It's the basis of dive tables. We understand that. Okay? Hold on. So, nitrogen is an inert gas. It doesn't do anything to our bodies. It doesn't have a metabolic effect. It doesn't do anything. It just goes, and that's it. So we talk about an inert gas narcosis. When we do technical diving, we talk inert gas narcosis. In recreational diving, we say nitrogen narcosis, because that's what we have. Am I correct? But an inert gas is any other gas that doesn't have a metabolic effect on our bodies. Are we happy with that? So we talk of inert gas narcosis. And it's the Martini law, the 1 tequila, 2 tequila, 3 tequila floor. You've heard that story before. Okay, we can stand here and drink 1 beer and I can drive home. 2 beers, 5 beers, I can drive home. Because every time I ask you, can you drive home, you don't go back to no beers. If I ask a guy with 5 beers, I can make him immediately sober and say, this is what you are like. Now go back here. Would you still drive home? There's no ways. Because of that slow, because every thought process is, I'm thinking here, I'm thinking here, I'm thinking here. But that gap doesn't change. You understand what I'm trying to say? So from 10 meters to 20 meters, 10 meters, you're already slightly knocked. Actually, almost none. At 20 meters, you're more knocked than you were at 10, am I correct? At 30, you're more knocked than you were at 20. But if I could take you, even at 30 meters, now I don't knock. If I take you at 30 meters, and I take you away from 30 immediately to the surface, you'll feel a big difference. And I can do that. We can dive with Trimix, and I can calculate it so that the Trimix I give you will give you the same narcotic effect as if you're on the surface. And I promise you at 30 meters, I'll make you breathe this. And you go, oh, there's definitely a difference. At 40, that difference becomes more pronounced. At 50, it becomes noticeably pronounced. At 60, it's like, wow. At 70, you're going, oh shit, I'm awake. And I put you back on the air again. I won't take you to 70 on air, but you understand. Okay, so the effect of is the 1 beer, 2 beer, 3 beers. You're not thinking sober when you have 5 beers in you. You're thinking like the guy, but I only have 1 more beer. It's only 1 more beer. I only want another 10 meters. Okay, that's where narcosis kicks in. It's not a straight line thing. It gets worse the deeper you go, faster. Make sense? Okay. We think it's because of the way that the heavy gas, the nitrogen, dissolves into our tissues. Okay. And basically, signals don't pass. The electrical impulses just don't pass properly. Okay. How deep do you think that fish is? Okay. That's a lantern fish. They found that really deep depth. So when you're there and you see this fish offering you chocolates, it's time to ascend. Okay. So that's what we call the Martini effect, 10, 15, 30, 45, 60 meters. Okay. So there's a little sketch. Don't get too heavy into that, but that's how your synapses work. You basically have an electrical impulse. There's almost like a space here, okay, and this electrical current wants to go there, and sits there, and it bounces, goes. Now all of a sudden you're filling that space with a very thick atmosphere, with a very thick gas, and the spark doesn't go straight there. The spark now goes another way, and that gives you that, what we call a narcotic effect. You become drunk. Okay, so what do? We can fix that, okay, by dropping the density of the gas. I love that meme. One does not simply adapt to narcosis. And the only people that tell you, I don't knock, are recreational divers. Technical divers will never ever say that, because we know what the truth is. We just don't. I don't like 30, 40 meter dives. Because at 30 meters, I'm the best diver I know. I'm as confident as anybody. That means I'm knocked. You're 30 meters under the water. You should be shitting yourself. But you're not. Something's wrong. Quid's a bit slow. Okay, so what helium does is helium is a less dense gas than nitrogen. So that's trimix. Air, nitrogen, and a third mix called helium. We introduce helium into the mix, and what the helium then does, okay, it thins out the gas. Remember those synapses I told you about? Okay? Your gas is like the surface again. So you can be diving at 60 and 70 and 80 and 90, 100 meters and think like you're at 20 meters. So typically, if we're doing seriously deep dives, we do a gas narcosis mix of 30 meters. So we mix the gas as if we are at 30 meters. Does that make sense? If you're doing ultra stuff, and I'm not at all in that level where you go past the 150s and stuff like that, but I have friends that has done that and do that. Some of them still around. And what they would do then, for records and stuff like that, they would mix their gas to 50, 55 meters. That guy hasn't adapted to narcosis. What he's done 50, 55 meter dives on air. So he's drunk. He's learned to drive drunk. He's taught himself to drive drunk. So when he gets to 200 and something meters, or whatever the story is, okay, he thinks like a guy at 55 meters. He knows he's drunk, but he knows he can handle it. He hasn't adapted to narcosis. Your body can't. It doesn't work like that. It's like adapting to no oxygen or adapting to no food. The guy who had the horse, that taught the horse to come, eat less and less and less every day until he could stop the horse from eating altogether. Perfectly, worked 100%. And he just got it right, and then the horse died. Happens. Okay, just go next slide, I want to see what it is. No, that's, I've got a very fast-fingered young man there. Gaan ek nog een terug, sorry Connie. There we go. So, okay, so we can go to there. So the density of helium is, I think, 2.79 times less than nitrogen. Okay, so we just introduce it into the mix. It's a simple thing. Helium is an inert gas, so it doesn't do anything to, yes, it makes you talk funny. We've all been to the Spur. Okay? Trust me, if you go to the Spur and you don't believe that less or little oxygen, lack of oxygen will kill you, okay, do yourself a favor, go to the Spur on Sunday, get the helium balloon, don't make squeaky voices. So what you do is you sit and you go, breathe the helium, oh, you talk funny like that, and then don't breathe a normal breath. Breathe the helium in again, from the balloon again. Try and do this 5 times. Try. 3rd try, you wake up with your face in the spaghetti. Okay, because you've dropped your oxygen intake, doof, 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 and it's like that, you're gone. You don't have any warning, nothing, oxygen drop. You look funny, and you can talk funny as well at the same time. Spaghetti dripping down your face, and you're talking a squeaky voice. Happens. I just know, I haven't tried it. So, with trimix, it's oxygen, nitrogen, helium, we know that. Narcotic limits, we've discussed that. Because trimix, we can go. Okay? We'll talk a little bit when we get to the deeper stuff or the really scary stuff now. Well, there's a photo of the really scary stuff. So the world record for the deepest dive ever in open ocean was 534 meters. This was commercial divers. Okay? The world record for the deepest dive ever by a human in a chamber is 701 meters. But he wasn't even breathing helium. He had a hydroliox mix, hydrogen and oxygen mixed. Because hydrogen is even less flighty or more flighty than trimix. So you can breathe hydrogen, pure hydrogen, not pure, but you have to have an oxygen content in that. This guy, this was the chamber, it was in a chamber, okay? So it's a simulated dive, doesn't matter. His body was still subjected to that pressure, okay? Because helium will cause HPNS, high pressure nervous syndrome. Okay, that's basically shakes. You're completely compass mentis, nothing wrong with your brain. But you're literally shaking, you can't do stuff. And you're aware of it, you just can't do stuff. Because too much trimix, or too much helium. So when we're doing deep dives, when other people are doing deep dives, very deep dives, they always put a bit of nitrogen in the mix. Because to take off the pure helium, that high HPNS, the high pressure nervous syndrome situation. Make sense? Okay, so there's this balance that you're doing. The other disadvantage is ICD, isobaric counter diffusion. Very misunderstood or not understood at all thing before the Bushman's-Gat event, when Don came up from a 220 meter dive and at 50 meters had an ICD event where he blew his, where he basically got a bubble in his eardrum. It's better understood now. I'm not going to explain it here, but it's basically two gases passing each other in a passage, and they're passing each other so fast that they actually form bubbles. And that passage is your eardrum, and it forms in your eardrum. And the minute that you break your balance, you fall over. And it's easy to fall over here because we can pick you up again, but if you fall over at 50, 60 meters underwater, there's no one to hold your hand. So it can become quite interesting. Okay. Advantages obviously is the clarity, okay, and that's the only advantage of helium. Okay, it's really expensive. It's really, really expensive. If you're going to follow this path down a technical route, you're going to meet the yellow box pretty soon. Because once you get past Tec 40, Tec 45, and Tec 50, the rebreather, if you want to go trimix, it's the way to go. Because you're looking at 4, 5, 6, 7,000 rand dives. It just doesn't become financially worth it. Where that same dive with a rebreather will cost you 500 bucks, 400 bucks. Same depth, I mean. Happy? Are there any questions on the trimix side of things, by the way? Speak now, forever hold your pieces. Okay, query, gaan on. Are we still good for time? There's not much you do now. Okay. Let's talk about my favorite subject, rebreathers. As the name implies, you rebreathe. You breathe in and you breathe out, and you breathe the same gas in and out again. Gaan aan, Koen. Okay, so we're going to look at the history of rebreathers, types of machine, open circuit versus closed circuit, how does the machine actually really work, and then lastly, safety and redundancy. That little picture is from a company called Peter Herbst's Incredible Steam Machines. You might have heard of them, it's called the Prism. My favorite machine, by the way. Okay, but mine looks like a steam machine. It's in bits and bobs, it's a lovely thing, I just love it. Okay, the yellow box of death is cute and modern and pretty. It's the most wildly sold machine in the world, the inspiration. But Peter Herbst's machine originally was his, it's not his company anymore, but I still love the logo, stunning machine, because it tells you what it does basically. Gaan on. So, history of rebreathers, interesting, 1876, Henry Floyce. That was the first rebreather. Okay, and the first rebreather dives were done. Okay, if you look in this book, this Darkness Beckons, there's a whole story about the 7 tunnel incident. when a guy went to 12 meters, sorry, on an oxygen rebreather, Lambert was his name, walked into a tunnel and came back 2 hours later. He closed the oak tunnel doors. They thought he was gone already. Because they used to work with the standard suit, you know, the one with the pipe and stuff on top. But because he had to go so far into the tunnel, the pipe kept on drifting onto the cave roof. And it became too heavy to pull because the pipes are full of air. The drag on the pipes became too much for one man. So Floyce came out. This was the Floyce machine, this one. Put him in that machine, and it's a mask with 2 tubes, a bag, and an oxygen canister in the front. You open it, you put the oxygen inside and you breathe it. And in the bag was loose absorbent material that absorbs the CO2. Open, and you breathe again. Works. Okay. Then you had the Lambertson machine in World War II. Okay. So in World War I, submarine escape systems were all rebreathers. You've got to remember, our Uncle Jacques only built his regulator, him and Henri Gaga, only built the regulator in 1948. Before that, everything was rebreather, or number 1 suit. So rebreather is not a new technology. It's much older than the normal regulators. It's an older technology. Okay, 98, the BADI Inspiration. First year this thing came out, 34 people died. That got the name yellow box of death. Oh, it's dangerous. Of the 30 people died, none was the fault of the machine. Everything was in a court of law proven to be diver error. People thought you could put it on like a regulator and just go dive. You can't. It's a completely different means of diving. 98 also, the Dolphin and the Ray rebreathers, they came out from a company called Draeger, and they were kind of like recreational rebreathers, but they were semi-closed rebreathers. We'll talk about the difference between them now. 2003, big woo-ha came out. It was the Cis Luna Mark 6, or now called the Discovery, the Poseidon Discovery machine. That became, the new recreational thing, and my honest opinion is, I think the manufacturers kind of screwed it over by making it a technical machine. They should have kept it as a recreational machine, great machine for that use. I think they're over. My personal opinion. Doesn't make it right. Okay. The world needs a cheap, efficient, recreational machine. Not something that you can convert to tech eventually. Because not everybody is. The problem is now people buy these machines full spec, and they think it's just a regulator. You could take your rec. If you could take your rec to 50 meters, why can't you take your machine to 50 meters? You can't. Okay. So we have 3 types basically. You have a pure oxygen rebreather, which is the military use. Okay. So PO2 rebreather is oxygen. Up to the depth limit. You should know that the depth limit is 6 meters. The human body physiologically can't handle oxygen deeper than 6 meters, but those are typically the rebreather, the military ones. The military guys don't go to 40 meters. They want to be under the water with no bubbles. And typically, Apex makes them. Well, not the only company, but they make them, military ones. It's the cool black ones that you see with the chest cavities, you know, place for the gun. Honestly, no place for those. Are place for beers. Okay. We have semi-closed machines. Typically, the Explorer was a type of this is one of the military ones, the Crab. The Explorer was one of those. They don't make it anymore, unfortunately. It was one of the recreational machines. So a semi-closed machine basically burps every 3 or 4 breaths. Bubble goes out. So if there was any extra CO2 built up, it'll pop out. Okay? Fully closed CCR is manual and electronic CCR. It's an electronic machine. It's completely controlled by a computer. But that'll kill you. Your car's controlled by a computer. Doesn't kill you. Okay. You get manual CCRs as well, which is fully closed machine. Something like the KISS Orca Spirit would be a fully closed machine, and a manually controlled machine, which means you have to inject the oxygen. If and when you do a course with me on the Inspiration, which is an electronic machine, I teach you for 5 hours to dive the machine in manual mode in any case, as if it's broken. And only the last bit I give you fun and say, okay, put your machine automatic and now have fun with the machine. Then you realize, blows your hair back like you can't believe. Between machines, open and slow circuit, dive time, we have 3 times the dive time at any depth, literally. You can take your dive tables now, you have 56 minutes at 18 meters, you've got times 3. 40 meters, you've got 8 minutes, you've got times 3. With no decompression, I'm talking no decompression limits. Straightforward, just you have 3 times amount of time, easy. Okay, we'll take a short break again quickly. Don't go smoke. I don't trust you people smoking anymore. Rather grab a beer. Okay, guys. Sorry, we just have to take a break every now and then just to switch the cameras and stuff over and stuff like that. Okay, so dive time is longer. Heat loss. Okay, every time you take a sip of your regulator, okay, you get cold. Am I right? You guys have all been. What do you get when you get out the water on the boat at Malangana and these places? What do they give you? Sweet. Why? Because you swallow the pillow. Your mouth is dry, am I correct?
Yes,
why is your mouth dry? Who can tell me?
Because the air you breathe in is dry.
The air you're breathing is dry. Your body is wonderfully designed so that by the time the air gets to your lungs, your air has to be moist and the air has to be warm. Otherwise you're going to get hohos in your lungs and colds and weird medical conditions. So where does that heat come from? And where does the moisture come from to moisturize the air? Okay, it comes from your palate, from your face. It comes from your body. That's why you're so thirsty after dive. That's why we say you must hydrate. You must drink water. Beer is not hydration. Coffee is not hydration. Okay, you can't say you had it the night before. It doesn't work like that. It's not the comrades. We eat carbo load. Okay, it doesn't work like that. Okay, you need to drink lots and lots of water. Main primary cause of decompression illness is dehydration. You dry, your blood flows slower, it's called sludging, and as your blood sludges, the physiological effect of your body clearing the nitrogen is not as efficient as the tables tell you to be. So you think you're a B diver at the end of the dive, but you're actually a D when you go into your next dive. And that's where you can. Recreationals, you can still bend. Lots and lots of moisture. With a rebreather, you exhale warm, moist air. It goes into the back, goes through a exothermic reaction with a CO2, with a carbon dioxide absorber, which is warm. So when you breathe the air in, you're breathing in warm air and it's moist. Okay, so when you get out the boat, no sweetie for me. You You save the paper, save the oceans, everything's wonderful.
So you're actually saying recreational scuba, it's actually not lekker.
Very dangerous stuff. You should never do that. Rebreathers.
That's a selling point. Or they organize a tender for me.
Your buoyancy control is horrible. Okay. When you're in open circuit and we start dropping down, what do? And we learn this in the open water, am I right? Cute. Rebreather, you can do as much as you want of that. You've got to stay in one spot. Or if you're going up, you're going to keep on going up. If you're going down, you're going to keep on going down. Your breathing has absolutely no effect on the rebreather. Because when you exhale into a counter lung. So when you exhale, your lungs get smaller. And our friend Archimedes kicks in. Okay? An object wholly or partially immersed in the fluid is buoyed by a force equal to the weight of the volume of the fluid it displaces. If I play that back, I must present it the wrong way around. But you understand what I'm trying to say. As your body gets smaller, you sink. If your body gets bigger, you rise. With a rebreather, you exhale, your body gets smaller, but the bag next to you gets bigger, so it stays the same size. So your buoyancy, boom. So you learn to get your buoyancy 100% right with a rebreather. Okay, you can't just breathe yourself right. And it's the funniest thing in the world to see new divers on the rebreather, because they don't want to, when I tell them, forget your open circuit training, no. Straight into the ground. It's funny.
So how would you do it? Yeah,
You inflate.
just a bit.
Inflate your BC. You learn to inflate your BC. You can't use anything else. You only have your BCD.
So you
And your dry suit and your other stuff. It gets interesting. There's lots of stuff you have to look at. But that's why the course takes 8 hours, 40 minutes. Okay, you dive a lot on the machine before we let you into the netherworld. You can't be an instructor on any of the machines unless you have 100 hours on it. You learn to dive the machine. You really get comfortable after 50, 60 hours. It's a lot of time on a machine. Okay. Breathing gas, humidity, temperature, we spoke about. No stop time, we spoke about. Pre-dive setup and post-dive care. That's a hell of a lot more with the machines. A hell of a lot more. Not double, not triple, it's 5 times more. Okay. You and I spoke about the technical thing that going to do it at a coastal resort, and I said my problem at the coast is the skippers, because they want to launch at 9 o'clock. But we're not ready. And we've got to go. The minute if I'm on a machine and somebody tells me, you must go now, I'll pack my machine away, so you guys go, I'll dive tomorrow. Okay. You dive when you're ready. You don't dive when the clock says you must dive. Open circuit, I can kind of like fix my shit on the boat. I can put the O-ring back in and stuff like that. That thing is trying to kill you. You must try and stay alive. And you don't stay alive by thinking about the beers you had last night, or bring a babalas in the next morning, or I'll fix this on the boat while we're launching. It doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work like that. I know some of you have dived with rebreather divers, or have been, mates who are rebreather divers, and you've seen them kit up.
takes time.
When I'm kitting up, don't talk to me. Just don't talk to me. I kit up my machine, and my machine stands one side, and then if I'm teaching, then you kit up your machine and I watch you kit up. I don't kit up my machine while you're kitting up your machine. Because I can't concentrate. And it's not about you that I'm worried. It's me. I want my machine to be ready. Does it make sense what I'm saying? That you do have to take more time. You have to be able, you're not just investing money, you're investing time. Serious time. Okay, I can't stress that enough. Your breathing effort on a machine is nothing. You're breathing through pipes this big. There's no cracking effort like your regulator has to. You first have to crack the diaphragm before the airflow starts. There's nothing. Unless you get a bit of water in your sorbent, then it's like trying to breathe through mud. But we don't do that. Things can go wrong with it, of course, but that's what you do a course for. Your entire open water course is about things going wrong, isn't it? No mask, no buddy, cramp, no reg, no air. Your open water course is about things going wrong. But things go wrong with rebreather, yes. That's why we do 8 hours of things going wrong. So whenever something goes wrong, you can fix it. Am I right? Okay. The other thing is the differences between models. You can't learn to dive on this machine and then you're a rebreather expert. With regulators, you can. Because a reg is, a rebreather isn't. It's like flying aeroplanes. If any of you have done a PPL, a private pilot's license, or you know how it works, is you learn to fly on a Cessna 172, and then you decide, do you want to go tail dragger, you want to fly a Piper, and the guy says, oh, we know you can fly. You don't have to do 30 hours again, but you're going to have to do a crossover 2 or 3 hours, so we can show you where the trim tabs are and the plane handles differently and stuff like that. There's always a little bit of change, the same with the rebreather. There's a crossover program. So you learn to dive on that for 8 hours, and the crossover program will be depending on the machine, depending on the standards of the agency, 2 or 3 hours, and then you can dive the other machine. Of course, the principle's the same. But setting it up, kitting it up, cleaning it, looking after it, servicing it, it's different per machine. And then the last thing is reliability. To be honest with you, that used to be a thing with the early machines. I'm not saying open circuit is reliable as anything, but we all know that rigs can and do fail. If you look at the bigger scope of things, how many people are diving worldwide, it's nothing. It's not even a percentage point. Rebreathers back in the day, they were less reliable. Not anymore. There's a lot more out there, a lot more machines. They're good. They really are. I'm not proposing that there's nothing wrong with them or nothing. There can still go things wrong. But they're way, way more reliable than they were 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 100 years ago, when Floyd's was diving them. Although Floyd's machine had absolutely nothing in it. You just... Okay, so how does the machine work? Very simple. We spoke about the air that we breathe, okay, the oxygen. Sitting here, running or sleeping, you're using an average of about 1 liter a minute. Less when you're sleeping, more when you're running. Okay, you can breathe. Your body only metabolizes about 1 liter per minute. It's not how much you breathe in, it's how much your body metabolizes. Your fuel consumption. Make sense? Okay, so what the rebreather does, it only puts the 1 liter of oxygen that you've metabolized, it only puts that back into the mixture. Make sense? So you go 1 liter into the back. 1 liter into the back. That's all. Okay. So a normal little cylinder that's 200 bar, pumped to 200 bar, that's got 3 liters in it, that's 600 liters of air. Oxygen, sorry. So there's 2 cylinders, one's oxygen and one's nitrogen, air. The machine only adds the oxygen, nothing else. So effectively, if you're a very careful breather, you've got 600 minutes on that. Three-liter cylinder. Okay. There's other things that says you can't because of the zorb and stuff like that, but the point is you can. So you can take that tank and go for a weekend to Sodwana and dive the whole weekend and come back with oxygen spare. Happy? The airflow is controlled, you'll see up there, okay, by 2 mushroom valves, and that's just 2 valves that sit like that. And when you they do that, and when you stop breathing, it blocks. And they open and block. And that's the only thing that drives the air. Your breathing drives the air. When you exhale, all the air goes that way. This air comes in, this air goes that way. When you stop breathing, boop, the mushroom valve closes and all the air sits this side. Next breath, next breath, next breath. At the back of your machine, there's 3 or 4, depending on the machine, oxygen cells, or 2, that measures the oxygen partial pressure. Says, hang on, you've... partial pressure has dropped slightly, and the machine goes, psst, adds the amount that you need to bring up the partial pressure again. So it's a nitrox blending machine. Doesn't matter how deep, how far, how long you go. It mixes the perfect nitrox at every single depth that you're at. Make sense? Okay, we'll talk about it a bit more when I can stand and talk about the machine. I've got a beer in my hand after this, and I'll explain to you, and I'll stand up to the machine and show you the flows and stuff if are you still awake and interested by then. The scrubber is the stuff that takes out the CO2, and you have 2 types of scrubber, a radial and coaxial scrubber, and coax basically just means the air comes in there and goes out there, where radial scrubber, the air goes in there and goes out the side. And that's why you one machine doesn't make you dive all the machines, because they get packed differently and stuff like that. You have to understand the differences. Simple as that. With rebreathers, we have more redundancy than we have with open circuit. If you have a problem here, okay, I can go to my second regulator. And from here, I can still go to my buddy. With a rebreather, if I have electronic failure, I can take the machine into semi-closed mode. I can dive that machine with no gauges showing, and I can still get out. One of my friends had a blowout on his machine, 187 meters. 187 meters in a cave. On semi-closed, came all the way back out. Had a slight shoulder bend. Alive. Happens, you can do it so simply. If your machine then floods and that fails out, you bail out to open circuit. That's why I carry, so we carry the same tank when we're doing technical, when we're doing open circuit or closed circuit diving or cave diving. We just give the tank different names where we use it. In a cave, we stage it. We put it because we're going to come back on the same line, so I don't have to carry all the tanks with me. With a rebreather, it becomes a bailout. If I'm at a certain depth and my machine bombs out, I go to that tank and I carry my bailout a cylinder. Make sense? So it's the same tank, same reading, same everything. Depending how you use it, you give it a different name. BOV is a bailout valve, that's that thing there. With the basic Tech 40 CCR course, the basic course, you actually have a regulator in your mouth. So when something goes wrong with the machine, you just do that, and you're breathing from your cylinder, which is plugged in, of course. Immediately, you're breathing from your cylinder. Okay, on the early models, before we had the BOVs, we'd have to take this out, throw it away, and go for your regulator, put it in your mouth. Either way, we teach you both methods in any case. Happy with that? So there is redundancy. People are starting to build twin rebreathers. This is a picture of guys in Australia, in New Zealand, and they're diving with twin rebreathers. So that's one, and they have another one. Okay, they don't go all in the back and stuff like that. They pack the Zorb canisters and stuff. And that's just the technology moving on. I can see it becoming a thing. We have the side mount gurus that believe there's the only thing to do a side mount, there's nothing else. That's religion as well. Okay? And you just have rebreathers that's that big and they work perfectly. Technology will get us there one day. Of course, you can also have a bailout rebreather. You can have a second machine set there somewhere and you can bail out to it. There's other issues and problems with that, which if I go into that, it's going to be 3-hour discussion. It's not as simple as just doing that, but yes, it can be done. The technical, but it can be done. That's why it's called technical diving. Questions on rebreathers? No.
So just on the sorb that you're going to pack in, what's the hours that you work off from? Is it 4 hours, then you have to replace the sorb? So the question is the sorb that you're going to use. How many hours before you replace it? And the cost for a replacement?
From a training perspective, manufacturer's perspective, 3 hours bang. We change the sorb after 3 hours. Okay? The machines have got temp sticks and stuff in that tells you how much sorb you're using. People will argue with me. I don't give a shit. If you're training with me, 3 hours, we change sorb out. Okay, 3 hours, if you look at the NOAA oxygen tables, 3 hours at 1.2 gives you exactly 3 hours, 60, 180 minutes. So if you've been 3 hours on a machine, you've reached your CNS toxicity level in any case for 1.2. So it's a nice, easy place just to bail out and go for it. I'm not going to say what I've done, but I've definitely dived my sorb way past that. I've been involved with dives where friends of mine have been on sorb for 6.5 hours. But that's not the rule.
Why would you do that?
Well, if you want to break world records, you want to world record stuff, you're not going to do, you're going to go, you have to go outside the norm. Otherwise, you understand, you just have to. You can't keep following the rules and you can't break the world speed record if you don't drive faster than 120. You've got to do different stuff.
Then the other thing is, hypothetically, so you say after 3 hours you replace the sorb. Let's say you've done an hour and a half. Can you then vacuum pack the sorb?
No.
or is it
No.
you throw it away? So
No.
you have to do 3 hours.
You don't have to vacuum pack it, but you
Yeah.
can't reuse the Zorb, because which part of the Zorb have you used, and which part not?
No, that's what I'm asking. So
No.
it's stupid then to dive an hour and a half and then go home. So rather do 3 hours.
Well, don't just leave your Zorb in and go and do an hour and a half tomorrow.
Okay.
The minute you take
Yeah.
the Zorb out, and you flumble the Zorb around, you put
Yeah.
it back in the canister, which bit is working
So you
where?
can leave it in the machine
Yes.
and tomorrow switch it on, go
Yeah,
through
no, you don't
breathing
do 1
process.
3 hour dive. No,
Okay.
no, no, no.
Okay.
You can go to say 1 hour and go for a weekend and do 3 dives, 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour, no problem. And nothing's going to happen if you go 3.5 hours. It isn't. Or, 70 minutes. But purely from a training standard, if we're training, it's 3 hours. It's priced in the course price, it's simple.
From a Drager perspective, ours is 2.5 hours finished. That's what.
Well, exactly.
Both for surface and for.
Well, it doesn't matter surface or underwater. The interesting thing what he's saying is, from Drager perspective, or it's a manufacturer, 2.5 hours. That's just liability.
Yeah.
But you're also using using a 4.5, a 4.8, using a thick, a much coarser Zorb.
Much coarser.
Yes. Yes, we're using high price Zorb, but it doesn't matter. You're 100% right. But I can dive your machine 4 or 5 hours on that Zorb, 3 hours. That same crappy Zorb I've dived 4.5. It's very dusty Zorb.
It's funny you say that since you're the biggest sellers of Zorb in.
Yes, but I know. But what are you doing? No, but hang on. If I say crappy, I mean the specific, the 4.8,
It's a
4.82, 4.8.
484.
But it's dusty. Am I
It's
correct?
dusty.
Yes.
And the only reason they do it like that is because they also use it for the anesthesia machines.
And they use it in submarines and stuff like that. Yes, no. That was the only Zorb we had in this country for 5 years, 6 years. That's all I dived, so I know that shit backwards.
So all the guys that use our rebreathers, they're always worried about what happens liability-wise if they check. So the only thing you can change on our sets is the Zorb. That's it. But it can't be.
Your thing is, most of your customers are military, which don't always listen, and your other customers are commercial, which have to listen, otherwise manpower shuts them down. I'm recreational, I don't have to listen. If I get sued, well, that's my problem, you understand?
Something goes wrong, it's your problem.
Because that's the law, isn't it? If there's no complainant, there's no law. But you're 100% right, 100% right. Any other questions on machines? We can do a lot more afterwards, I just want to...
How much is the machine?
Fire. Fire.
5,700 pounds. Make the calculation, times 24 this morning. So let's look at training, the PADI training. Can you guys all see the board here? So basically, Discover's Tech is DSD. If you want to check what tech diving is like, we put you in the pool, we put you on the twin set. It's not much difference. But you can do that if you want. We're not going to take you to 60 meters to discover Tech. No, it doesn't work like that. Then you have Tech 40, Tech 45, Tech 50. Very aptly named. How deep do you think you can Tech 45? It's a trick question. Yes, 45 meters. Okay, and Tech 50? And 65? And Tech Trimix diver?
105.
There's no limit to Tech Trimix diver. In training there's limits, but there's no limit. Okay, because Trimix has no real limit. There's lots of other things that will block you. Your dive computer manufacturers won't believe you if you tell them I've been to whatever meters with my computer. The machines will give you a depth limitation. It's a liability thing, the same as your 2.5 hours on your Zorb. Okay. Tech 40 CCR, you'll see, starts the same as Tech 40. So, technically speaking, you can go straight from where you are to Tech 40 CCR. If you're training with me, and it's a personal thing, it's not a PADI standard, I won't take you. I want you to be a Tech 40 diver. Because this teaches you decompression and stuff like that. It's an easy next step. If you're doing Tech 40 CCR, you have to learn decompression and rebreather. And the guys I've trained, or the ones or twos I've trained, I found that it's just too much. There's a shitload of stuff to learn there on its own. So if you want to train with me, it's going to be Tec 40 CCR, Tec 40 first, and we can do a CCR later.
So Peter, for me, the question is, what's the fundamental difference between Tec 40 and Tec 45?
5 meters.
So why do you have to do Tec 40 and then Tec 45? Why can't you go Tec 45, you do the same fundamentals, but gradually work the way up through instructions to 45
You
meters?
don't have to. You can come to me and say, I want to do Tec 50. And then
Okay.
you do Tec 45, 40, 45, and 50. You still get 3 cards, but we can combine dives. So
No,
if you
but
do
you-
Tec
but
40,
you-
45 and 50, it's 12, it's
Okay,
12 dives.
maybe my question is
Yeah.
wrong then. For me, it's that sense of, if the fundamentals is exactly the same between Tec 40 and Tec 45, why do I have to pay for Tec 40 and then pay another payment for Tec 45 if the difference is 5 meters, but everything is exactly the
Everything is
same?
not the same. Equipment changes. You're carrying more bailouts, you're doing more decompression, and you're adding gases.
No, but then why don't you just do Tec 45 where you get taught all of those
Well,
things
you
for
can,
5 meters
you can
deeper?
just do Tec 45.
So I don't have to register Tec 40, I can register Tec 45.
Well, you have, okay.
No,
So
I need to
okay,
understand.
what you're saying, you want to do a deep course, because let's say you want to go to 50 meters eventually. So you want to do a
Yes.
deep course, am I correct?
Yes,
Good,
correct.
that's going to be 10 dives, you can do it. You can do that.
Okay.
But you're going to do Tec 45, Tec 40, 45, and Tec 50. Because that's the program. Do you understand?
Yeah, but
the
it
program,
comes-
there's 10 dives.
Yes.
So in the old days, PADI used to have a Tec deep dive. There was a Tec deep course. It wasn't,
Correct.
it was one course, but you had to do 10 dives. So all they've done, they've taken the 10 dives and split it into 4
And
groupings.
yeah, but I think at the end of the day, it comes to a cost thing as well. So
It's going to cost you the same ultimately.
why
You're
will
still
it
doing
cost you
10
the same
dives.
thing?
It doesn't cost you less because I'm still doing the same work. You're still doing the same amount of pool sessions and you do the same amount of dives. You want to become a dive master. You can walk into any dive centers, I want to become a dive master, they give you a price. But on the road to get to dive master, you have to do open water, am I correct?
Correct.
You can't start dive master training because the prerequisite before you get there must be rescue. Before you get there and before you get there, same with Tec. Before you go there, you must have this, must have this. So you get all the training, and the training just happens to be 40, 45, and 50. It's not it doesn't cost you more because it's 3 courses. You can call it one course if
Yeah.
you want. You can come to me and say, I want to become a Trimix diver. I say, fine. I'll charge you for the Trimix course, and we start doing the Trimix course. But before you do that, you must have Tec 50. Before you do it, you must have Tec 45. Before you must have Tec 40.
So if I say Trimix course, you'll give me a package deal and a discount.
Well, the argument is on the. So first of all, yes, you're right. And there's a pricing difference between 40, 45, and 50 if you do them separately. If you do them as one, there's definitely a price break because instead of doing 12 dives, there's 10. Because I go to the place where we're doing the dives once. But if you're doing 40, 45, and 50, I have to travel 3 times. So there's a cost implication. That's
That's
logical.
what I'm saying. If you know your aim is, let's say, Trimix,
I've got no problem with that.
and you would like to get to a point where it's going to cost you individually 80,000 Rand, but if I do a package deal, you're going to give it to me at 50. Hypothetically.
Yes, of course. No, but like anything in life, if you want to buy a car with the aircon and the airbags, you can find. If you put them on afterwards, you pay extra. That's logical. No, that's logical.
So then you can do a package
You must
deal.
just understand one thing about technical diving. As we go deeper and deeper, our ratios get less and less. Trimix, my ratio is 1 to 2. I can train 2 guys at a time. You understand? Only 2. And the only money that the 2 guys will save as opposed to 1 is you guys are going to share the gas. Because my gas price is my gas price you pay for on Trimix. Geef ek Lerato die prater?
Do you press it?
No,
Just talk.
Big, so I just want to understand, so you being a tech instructor, how is the market for you in South Africa? Are you training enough people? Are a lot of people interested
How
in
often have
tech?
you seen me wear shoes, Lerato?
Every day.
No, this only the past 4 days. Listen, guys, to be honest with you, it's not a money-making venture. It's expensive because the gases are expensive. It's expensive because we travel to places where the water is deep enough. We take boats out. The boat doesn't do a 20-minute or your normal hour dive. The boat has to be out there. If we're doing extreme stuff, there's 2 boats in the water. If I'm doing a trimix dive, I'm 100 and something meters. I ideally would want 2 boats out there. What happens if we 4 guys down there, one of us has a problem and the boat has to go back? What happens to the other 3? Who pays for the second boat? You have to think like that. The problem with tech is if you must have the time and the money to do this. It's not a cheap sport. It's just not. And if you try and do it cheap, you're going to end up buying cheap regulators, you're going to come with shit equipment, and you're going to end up getting hurt. That doesn't mean you have to just go buy the most expensive rig in the world. That's not what I'm trying to say. You've got to buy the right equipment and make sure it's serviced properly.
So my question still stands, Pete.
I think there's a market. I think there's a market. Would I retire on that? No. Not in South Africa. Maybe in the States where you have Florida, the caves and stuff like that, Mexico. But now you go to Mexico, every second guy's a cave instructor because the caves are 12 meters deep and you can see forever. Every Tom, Dick and Harry is a cave instructor. So markets work like that. If there's a market that people make money in, more people get into that market. That's just marketing. I think there's a market. I don't think we have the dives. We have the dive sites. We don't have the caves that the Americans have. But then again, the Frenchies have the caves. The Brits have the caves, but their caves are dark and dangerous and dingy. And there's guys like Martin Farr, which are like boffins in those caves. They crawl and slither and slide and blow their hair back, stuff like that. I'm too shit scared for that stuff. I like nice big white caves where my torch lights up the thing. But I've been stuck because I'm fat, but it happens.
What happened when you got stuck?
It wasn't because I was fat. I got stuck in a line. So then CCRs 40, 60, 100, the 3 CCR levels. Again, when you start playing around here with the trimix stuff, start talking rebreather, start thinking rebreather. By the time you finish your trimix course, you could have afforded a rebreather. Not really, but if you do 3 trimix courses, you can afford a rebreather, technically speaking. It's expensive. It really is. Not that machines are cheap. I'm not going to go through all the thing. My most important thing is the middle. If a rebreather diver approaches very slowly, you can observe the wreck divers in their natural habitat. You can actually hear them a mile off. Oh, fuck, they're coming again. It's noisy as shit. We did a dive on the Thistlegorm at the locomotive at 32 meters. The dive master insisted on diving with us. I said, dude, I'm going to be an hour and a half on the Thistlegorm. It can't be done. I said, well, just follow me if you want to. I told him I'm going to go to the locomotive, go around the back, go in the back. There's a gun, where guns were storeroom, come out, we go past the prop at the gun at the back, go around. No, but that's going to, I said, dude, I'm going to rebreather. Didn't know what a rebreather was, sadly so. We got to the one spot we want to film the side of the Thistlegorm, the beautiful side where it's lying with the gun facing like that. And there were divers in the water, like coming. So I said to my buddy, I said, just wait. So we just sat on the sand. Okay, let's go. Now we can take videos again. That's the fun of rebreathers. Just let them go past. We've got all the time in the world. Dive the Thistlegorm in, out, sideways. 2 hours on the Thistlegorm. There's not a bit I haven't seen yet. Really, really cool. I've given you guys, we'll talk about the CCR and the Tec 40, the standards and stuff like that. This is, you're not going to make notes there. It's on the pieces of paper and stuff like that. So if you want those questions, we'll talk about them. I don't want to discuss them now because it's pretty pointless. Oh, we had questions. Any more questions on the Tech Rec side, on the PADI Tech Rec side? Okay. I think we're going to get to the story side quickly. Look at cave diving. Again, beautiful photo. This is a couple of flashes there. You can see the redundancy on this guy. 2 regulators, long hose wrapped. He's wearing the long hose. Torch with a Goodman handle. on the left-hand side. So there's your torch, okay. Little strap, simple, goes on your webbing over here, and there you go. Okay, and they're pretty
Good for load shedding.
bright torches. Very good for load shedding. You don't want to switch them on and off, it's not good for them. Gaan aan, Connie. So, some history quickly. Fontaine de Vaclou in France, 1878. This was the first recorded cave dive. This is this character over here. That's the guy I told you that swam into the cave with a wax bundled with a candle. His story is right on the first page of the first chapter of this book. His story in this blows your head back. Then you had what they call the sump, the first sump. So the cave, does this. Kango caves in South Africa was discovered. Well, it was there, but divers went in and they realized that there's more, and then they pumped it out. And that's where the bits that you're going to is actually being kept clean by pumps. They sump dive, so you go under restriction. The first sump in 1922, Wookie Caves in 1935. These guys over here, amazing shit they did. They did that with these suits, with the #1 suits. So they walk into the cave. I was at Wookie Hole, but it's now a complete tourist attraction with witches and shit like that. I thought it was going to be this cave diving mecca thing, and it's not. It's actually just, there's nothing but cave diving there. Anyways, so they walked in there and they had a bar with balloons on it. They hung onto the thing and put air into the balloons and whoop, went up to, oh, there's a brand new chamber. And I think Wookie has something like 9 chambers now that they've opened up to the public, where they've put walkways in the top and you can actually go into this whole cave system. Really cool setup. And then the big one, WKPP, which was Woodville Cast Planes Project, 1987. That's where the whole DIR thing, do it right thing, came past. A lot of guys, private guys, doing serious penetrations. They still hold the rebreather penetration, cave connection penetration, longest cave dive, all of those records. A lot of records are held by WKPP group. They got together and they all had a shitload of equipment, and they had to standardize, because the guys would come off work on a Friday and go and dive. So they started saying, hang on, you can't rock up here with your BC like this and mine like this, blah, 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 because we're just filling tanks, we're just doing this project. And they went for the whole, they focused on DIR, do it right. Only one way. We carry torches here, we carry the light there. Your slate goes here, your computer goes there, and that's how we all look the same. So we don't have to do all these massive briefings about where must you grab my octa, where mine sits and shit like that. All the divers knew exactly what the other diver was dressed like and looked like, so that they could just get in the water, say, okay, the cave mouth starts at 87 meters. The entrance to the cave starts at the bottom of a pit, that's at 80 meters, 87 meters. That's where the mouth starts. If you Google WKPP or Woodville Cast Planes Project, lots of cave records on there. If you're not into this kind of thing, it's very boring shit. People swimming through stuff. But it's cool. It really is. Vaclou, this is just a picture of Vaclou. There's all the depths and stuff like this. I think this goes to 300 meters, 308 meters. So it's been dived there by a machine. Those last two, those machines. It's not people yet. Okay? Vaclou, lots of stories in there, the cool ones. I picked out the cool stories. This guy, Jochen Hasselmeyer, went with his wife, 1983, one night because the things camped off. Him and his wife went, she helped him carry the gear, and he went and did the first 200 meter dive ever in the world, on his own. Just went, did a 200 meter dive, and came out the next morning and packed up his gear and went home. No backup divers, no nothing, just Jochen and his kit. And today he's in a wheelchair, he's lame, because he got bent on a dive and he was treated on the wrong tables in the chamber. And he was actually fine, went back for retreatment apparently. I don't know the whole story, I could have some of my facts wrong, and got bent in a wheelchair today. Winnie? This is Wookie. Okay, you can see Like I said to Lindy and I walked up to there and they wanted me to pay and I said no ways. Because until then there was no cave dive pictures. It was all witches and stuff like that. It's a very spooky valley. Very cool, but I'm not into people with hats. I'm not 12. But in any case, you can see how it's been explored all the way down. So there's all the names that guys have gone down into Wookie. This was the first equipment. That's basically a pump. They're turning it, pumping air down to the bottom. These early guys were ridiculous. They were ridiculous, the shit they did. It's beyond understanding. So this is WKPP, 760 meters at 84 meters, penetration record. That's 7 kilometers at 84 meters, okay? Longest traverse, the traverses from in one end out the other end, 10 kilometers. Longest deco, 29 hours. Okay, serious records got broken on the Cast Plains project, and still, it's still ongoing. America or Florida is hollow underneath. It's fucking hollow underneath. And they're just going down every single passage they can. And
Especially after that.
Did you dive there?
Bushman's Gat is our own. So Nuno, you all know of Nuno, or you must know Nuno. That's 283 in 1996. Werner van Skyk held the ladies' record at 221. Dave Shaw did 270 in 2004. The story on the Darkness Beckons, the whole, the Raising the Dead, the whole Bushman's Gat story, what happened there was 2005. That was quite newsworthy. And Karen van der Oever just the other day broke the ladies' world record, the new world record for ladies at 236. To give you an idea, this is Nuno, his tank set up. So those three were twinned. This was a separate tank. They're not twinned, but yeah, tied together. This is myself and Elliot coming down. The hole's down here. Just give you a perspective of the size of this thing. That's myself ready to go in 2005. On that record that Dave did there, I was his backup, not on that one, 3 months before. He also broke a record, 220, and we came out the hole, and by the time we got back to Pretoria, the French broke the record that he broke there. It was a 2. That was a pissy one, but cool. There was only 3 of us that went, and Dave broke the record. That was a wow. It was a wow 10 days, I promise you. Hanan Kuni. This is our bottom recovery story. We're going to talk too much about it. That's when Don got bent with the isobaric counter diffusion. This is us pulling Don out. There, right below him there is that drop. You can see there. This was the test run. So this photo is taken at the top there where we're getting him out. That's Dave. This was the team. I was much thinner and much younger then. This is myself and Petrus there where we got the bodies out. That's Dave. This is Petrus's body, or his equipment at least. That's Dave's camera. And this was the slate that says Dave's not coming back. Like I said, that was January 2005. That was quite an intense 10 days, I promise you. But that's why we do this shit. Not to have people die, but imagine if we got that body out. Well, I suppose nothing would happen, is it? It's always when people die that we love the news, isn't it? Lastly, this is the international cave diving sign. Okay, people die in caves, a lot. Cave diving has a very bad rap, okay? Because when somebody dies in a cave, it's known as a cave death. But very few qualified cave divers dive in caves. But a recreational diver swims into a cave and dies, it gets chalked under cave diving death. And that's the problem. So when I go out and try and get insurance, and I hear I'm a cave diver, my insurance skyrockets. You can get insurance though. And if you die in a cave, they go, ooh, here's your money. So cave diving has the bad rep of people that died in caves, correctly so, but they were not trained. Okay. Very few, not saying none, but few cave divers, trained cave divers, die in caves. And you must not forget, these people are pushing the envelopes. They're at the edge. Okay? People going around Formula 1, Niki Lauda, those guys, they die easier than you and me doing 60 k's an hour in a 60k zone. Okay? If you're on that edge, there's more chance of you dying. Yes, it's true. But the training and the technology and the stuff has really moved on from the 70s and the 60s and the 50s. There's stories of Jacques Cousteau that sent his lieutenant down to 100 meters and the guy just died. I think he was on, I don't know, very high oxygen mix or something. Oop, oh fuck, we can't take oxygen that deep. Oops. Seriously, that's how they did it. If you read in that book the story of Lambert doing the tunnel, the seventh tunnel, 12 meters. Make the calculation, 100% oxygen. You pass a pressure of the O2. Oh, but we can't go over 1.6. Okay, those guys are 12 meters on pure oxygen. Interesting shit. Okay, he's on 2.6. And he walked in and he walked out. And he worked hard as well at the same time. Are there any questions, guys? It's online of niks.
No.
Okay. Okay, that's it. We're going to stop the live stream at least, so Quinn can relax. And then I'm going to be around you. I'm going to have a beer now, please. So if you want to ask questions, I'll talk you through rebreathers and stuff like that anytime. I don't mind. I've got an Uber to take home, so I can be here the whole night. Okay, thanks, guys.